I have built two multi six-figure businesses. I was a dating coach for about 6 years. I have read over 200 different personal development books. I have gone through many courses, and I hear so many people telling me to read this book and that book. And a lot of them I were disappointed, especially very popular self-help books. A lot of them that people told me, this will change your life. This is everything you need to know about business, were just complete garbage. They weren't helpful at all. So super excited to do this video because now I can break down the most popular self-help books. I chose ones that are very, very popular, but also the ones that I have read, because there were a lot of popular self-help books that I simply haven't read. So I am only going to be talking about books that I personally have read, and only the ones that are really popular in self-development, in business, in the world of male personal improvement. So yeah, let's get cracking into it. You guys are going to be surprised by a lot of my answers. I know a lot of people swear by these books, but they're not as good as you think they are. So let's start off with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm going to put this book in the amazing category. I think that it's amazing because everything is applicable in life and in business in this book. The only reason I won't put this in life-changing is because it's harder to practice in real life and to keep these 7 habits of highly effective people in mind. And I just felt like it was lacking a little bit of clarity around the practicality around this book. So I'm going to put this in amazing category. I highly suggest everybody to read this. Next, we have the 4-Hour Workweek. Really popular book in the business world. It became a bestseller. Pretty much everybody has heard of 4-Hour Workweek. Do I think it's good? I'm going to put this in the mid as fuck category. Now, why is it mid as fuck? Should you read it? Probably not. If you have extra time on your hands, sure, check it out. Understand how he wrote the book. Maybe if you're trying to do some marketing research. I don't recommend everyone to read this book because, one, it's outdated. The stuff in the book is not going to be able to be applicable to you to actually use. But there are some stories, anecdotes, things that you need to believe in order to build a business that I think might be helpful in this book. Again, I don't think it's worth the read. It's super popular, but it's pretty mid as fuck. Next, we have the 48 Laws of Power. A lot of people swear by this book. I'm going to put this in pretty good category. The reason why it's pretty good, if you try to apply the 48 Laws of Power on other people, I think in the real world, people are just going to see you as an asshole and they're not going to want to talk to you. Like, simply put, they just will not be around you. You're going to be a toxic person that nobody will want to be around. However, I think it's helpful to understand these concepts so that you can know when other people are doing it to you, so that you can understand when other people are trying to put power over you and pretty much hold you down. So for this reason, I think it's good. It lacks a little bit of practicality in the book in terms of what you should actually do. However, Robert Greene is an amazing author. I think the way he writes is absolutely amazing. Some people don't like the way that he writes and how he structures his books. I think it's worth the read. Definitely put it on your list. Next, we got Deep Work. A lot of people swear by this book. A lot of people say this was life-changing, amazing. I'm going to put it in the mid as fuck category. Reason why I want to put this in the mid as fuck category is because here's the gist of the book. Listen, if you are in a distracted work environment where other people have access to you very easily, you got multiple things that you're working on at once, lots of distractions, you shouldn't do it. You're not going to be productive. Your brain is going to hardwire itself to not be productive. What you should do is sit down in a non-distracted environment, do 1, 2, 3 hours of deep work, make sure you have set boundaries with other people to not do work. And that's pretty much the entire book. It lacks practicality. It lacks more in-depth information. Sure, there's some practical aspects, but it's not going to be life-changing. You're probably not going to do it. I think if you are interested in the science behind why you should be sitting down and focusing on work and not having distractions, cool. It's a good book. But do I think it's worth reading 200 plus, 300 plus worth of pages? Nah, absolutely not. The Way of the Superior Man. This one is a huge one in the male dating space and the male red pill space. Everybody should read it. It's pretty good. It lacks practicality. A lot of stuff I don't agree with, like the semen retention stuff. Look, all that stuff could be helpful. If it's helping you, awesome. However, it's complete pseudoscience. It's not real. There's no actual research behind it that it actually helps you out. This book, however, will give you a guideline of how you should be seeing women, how you should be seeing your purpose. I think every man's purpose should come first. Do I think everything is applicable? No. Do I think it's worth the read? Yes. 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. Oh, God. You guys are going to hate me for this one. This is mid as fuck. I think 2 of the rules were like parenting rules, so it doesn't apply to young people at all. I know a lot of young people love Jordan Peterson, swear by him, swear by his advice, swear by his books. Some of his advice is okay. I don't even think it's necessarily that good. It lacks practicality. Is it worth a read? Maybe if you have some extra time, but I think there are better books than the 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Not to mention a lot of stuff that he talks about, he doesn't even preach. So how can you trust someone who doesn't practice what they preach? So read it if you want to. If you're a fan of Jordan Peterson, you really like him. In my opinion, not super helpful. The One Thing. We're going to put this, in the mid as fuck category as well. The book comes down to one thing, which is focus on one thing at a time. You don't need to read 200 plus pages to know that. It's good for understanding the science behind it and all this stuff, but I just think it's mid as hell. Next up, 4 Agreements. Oh, I had so many of my friends tell me, man, you got to read the 4 Agreements, bro. This is like the best book. Terrible, terrible book. First of all, if you're trying to grow in business and grow as a man, some of this advice is not going to be practical. Some of this advice could, if anything, be harmful to you. Also, very fucking basic, very basic advice. Things that just people naturally should know, I think, was in the 4 Agreements. The stories weren't that good. I read the audiobook. Maybe the audiobook is different, but I just thought this is not a book worth reading. It genuinely felt like a waste of time, and it wasn't even that much time to read this book because it's pretty small. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not. Influence by Robert Cialdini. We're going to put this in the mid as fuck category as well. A lot of people swear by this book. However, do I think it's worth, again, reading over 200 pages? No. It lacks practicality. It talks a lot about the science and psychology of persuasion, which, by the way, there is a better way of learning this. Go to 25cognitivebiases.com. It talks about more than just what's in this book called Influence, and you can pretty much instantly in 5 minutes learn more than this book. I think this only has like 7 influence triggers. That has 25. Just go on that website, skip this book. It's not necessary. Next, we got No Excuses by Brian Tracy. I'm going to put this in the pretty good category. This is very close to being in the amazing category. The reason why this is a pretty good book, it can be life-changing. There's a lot of practical things, practical exercises in the book. Do I think they actually work? Now, I put a lot of the practical exercises in this book into daily practice. And to be honest, it didn't last very long. Now, that could be me personally. This is why I'm on the cusp of putting this on amazing, because for someone else, it could be amazing or even life-changing. For me, it was a pretty good book. I suggest reading it because it could be completely life-changing for me. If for you, for me, it wasn't necessarily the most life-changing book, but I will probably revisit this. Next up, we have Psycho-Cybernetics. Mid as fuck. This book, everybody swears by. It's not good. Lots of pseudoscience. It's basically just positive thinking and using your mind. It's not that great. I just don't see how this can be actually applicable in the real world. There isn't much real science behind this. I tried to practice a lot of the stuff in this book. It's not really, really good. It's not going to absolutely change your life. I know a lot of people swear by this book. For me, it was mid as fuck. Dotcom secrets. I'm going to put this in the amazing category. The only reason I'm not going to put Dotcom secrets as a business book in the life-changing category is because a lot of the stuff is outdated. However, I think to be introduced into the world of marketing and business, this is going to be one of the best books as an introduction to marketing and business, understanding funnels, understanding how to set up funnels, understanding how to get leads, all of these things. It's going to be a good introduction. Do I think that you can build a business off of it? Maybe. I think it's outdated. A better book might be Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. I'm going to put those two together, Expert Secrets, Dotcom Secrets. I'm going to put it in an amazing category. I suggest if you're trying to start your own business for you to 100% read it. Okay. Next up, we have Power versus Force. This is going to be life-changing. This is a life-changing book. Now, as someone who's talking about understanding the science and not going towards pseudoscience and practicality, this is not a very scientific book. Matter of fact, it has a lot of pseudoscience. However, it gives you an understanding of the world that you probably will not experience or understand before reading this book. Understanding the different consciousness scales, understanding levels of energy, how some people live in a completely different reality than you based off of their habits, their thoughts, their mindset. I would suggest also reading a book called Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. I'm going to put these books together, Power versus Force and Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. They're pretty similar. They have different scales of consciousness, but it's going to give you an understanding into the world of reality a lot more. And I highly, highly suggest everybody to read this. Next up, we have Cash Flow Quadrant. I have a hard time putting this up into the pretty good category. I'll put it in pretty good. The reason why is because it gives you an understanding of different ways of running a business, right? You have an entrepreneur, you have a business owner, you have self-employed, and then you have employee, right? Or you have investor, and then you have employee. It's good to understand the concept behind this book so that you understand where you're at and what you need to do. If you're self-employed, how you can get from self-employed to actually running a business and not being in your business. How to go from having a business to being an investor where you don't have to worry about your business. You're just investing into businesses, properties, stocks, all of these things to really grow your wealth. I think it lacks practicality. It lacks step-by-step how-to. Now that I think about it, you could probably just watch a YouTube video and not read this book. So I'm going to put this in mid as fuck. It's not harmful or bad, but I think you can just watch a YouTube video that's going to talk about the concept so you don't have to read 200-300 pages worth of this. I also believe it has some good stories, anecdotes in there. So if you want to read that, sure, but a YouTube video is going to be sufficient for this. 10X Rule, garbage book. The whole concept of the book is 10X your goals. If you have a goal, just 10X it. If you have an action that you need to take towards that goal, 10X that action. It's a very egocentric book. I don't think it's even applicable, and I don't even think it's good advice. I don't think you should 10X your goals. A lot of people are going to be overwhelmed by 10Xing their goals. You have to understand what works for you. For some people, 10Xing their goals and having big, audacious goals gets them to at least 1 or 2X of those goals, gets them to achieve something. For other people, it can be absolutely fucking overwhelming to the point where they do absolutely nothing. This is not a good book. And matter of fact, it can be harmful. I don't suggest you to read it. All right. Next up, we have Models by Mark Manson. This is a pretty good book. I suggest you to read it if you're single and you just want to get a girl or you want to get a girlfriend. I don't think all advice in that book is going to be really good. I would say 70, 80% of that advice is good enough to get you into a relationship or to attract women better. I do think it's a little bit outdated. So if you really want to understand how to become really good with women and dating, you should dive deeper into that world. But I don't think that it's necessarily a bad book. If you just want to get a girlfriend or attract a few girls and go on dates, this is going to be good for you. Mastery by Robert Greene. Absolutely amazing book. I don't put this in life-changing because it again lacks practicality. However, to understand what it takes to really become a master at your field, to understand what to not do to become a master at your field, to understand the concepts and the mindset of mastery, like such as things like mentorship, such as putting in your 10,000 hours. I think it's an amazing book. And if you even put it into practice and really follow it in that essence, it can be life-changing. So I'm going to put this in the amazing category. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This is a hard book because on the one hand, it can be harmful. It can be harmful for the kind of person who's like, I'm going to go hard. And then they start going hard in life and business. And then they overwhelm themselves, burn themselves out, and then they're worse off. So in that sense, it can be harmful. I think depending on the reader, this book can be harmful, mid as fuck, or pretty good. I'm going to put it as pretty good. It was pretty motivating. Understanding how much further you can push things in terms of your mental limits and what other people have done before you really just makes you think, man, I can go a lot harder. I can do more. I can achieve more. So it can be a pretty good book. It's just a lot of his personal stories, however, but his personal stories are pretty inspiring. So I'm going to put this in a pretty good category. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Absolutely amazing book. Oh man, there was so much in this book that I'm going to have to definitely reread this. This is going to be a book that I'm going to be coming back to 100%. I'm just going to tell you, put it on your list of read books. Okay. Put it on your list to read. Just read it. Okay. It's really good. Happiness Advantage. This is an amazing book. If you put into practice everything that's in this book, you will become a happier person, especially if you deal with anything like depression, anything that's basically holding you back mentally. I highly, highly suggest this book. It's well-researched. The research is good. It's not pseudoscience. There's practical steps. And if you take those practical steps, it's going to be very helpful. Do I think that the practical steps are necessarily easy to do? No. This is why I won't put it in life-changing. However, it's really, really good. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Garbage. Do not read this book. I had to grab my mic for this one. So many people swear by this book. Garbage book. Okay. Too many stories. Who gives a fuck? I do not give a fuck about all these stories. Give me the practical shit. Let me put the practical shit into practice. If it works for me, cool. If it doesn't, awesome. Too much research, too much stories, and the advice is bad. The advice is bad. It's going to make you an inauthentic person. The only advice that I think was really good in this book was when you're talking to people, for example, instead of saying, hey, really cool that you did this thing, but, because when you say but, all the stuff that you said that was positive goes away. And they only focus on the negative. So in this book, it suggests that you say, hey, really cool that you did this thing and how you can improve as XYZ. That was the only good advice. Otherwise, garbage book. I don't suggest it. Let's move on to A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. This is life-changing. This was an absolutely life-changing book for me. It absolutely broke my ego as a person. And I remember when I was reading this book, I was depressed. I was, honestly, I was not in a good place in my life. I was drinking all the time. I was smoking all the time. I was very depressed. It wasn't a fun time for me. And I remember reading this book, and everything it talks about, the ego and the pain body, and how we are our own enemies by creating a future and a past tense all the time, and we're never present. It blew my mind. And I remember crying when I read something in this book, a story. I highly suggest every single person to read this book. It was absolutely life-changing for me. I know it was life-changing to a lot of different people. Very, very good book. Top tier. Fantastic. Spontaneous Happiness. This is also an amazing book by Andrew Weil. Lots of practical steps. He talks about supplements, science, breath work, things that you can actually do to become a happier person. I absolutely love this book. You know what? I have a hard time putting in this life-changing because you might not take action on it, but I'm going to put Spontaneous Happiness and life-changing. We'll change that. I think it's very practical and it's a really good book. Next up, we have 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. This is an absolutely amazing book. It could even be life-changing. The only reason I would say it's not life-changing is because the practicality of doing the exercises are going to take a long time, and you have to be consistent every single day. So for that reason, it might not be the best thing because it just takes too much time, especially if you're an entrepreneur like me. You don't want to be sitting down and journaling for like fucking an hour a day. So for that reason, I'm not going to put it in life-changing, but every page of this book was absolute gold. I remember just having a highlighter and like I was just pretty much highlighting every single page. So highly suggested. It's going to blow your mind. And if you do the stuff in the book, it's going to really change your life. Awaken the Giant Within. I'm not going to put this in life-changing or amazing. I know a lot of people think it is. It's pretty good. It gives you information into understanding your brain, how it works, how to take over your mental energy, all of these things. However, a lot of it is pseudoscience. A lot of it is just stuff that Tony Robbins has made up. A lot of it also lacks practicality, everyday practicality, especially for busy people. I even think some of this stuff can be harmful. Like if you're doing his ridiculous morning routine every day, it's too much. And if you are inconsistent with that morning routine, you're not going to be able to get shit done. You're going to feel bad about yourself. So it can be even harmful. It's pretty good though. I suggest everyone to read it. There is some practical exercises, setting goals, all of these things. Will it actually work is the question. In my opinion, this was a book I read maybe twice. I probably won't be reading it again. Okay. The Evolution of Desire. We're going to put this in amazing by Dr. David Buss. This book will make you understand desire, intimacy, romance, and woman at a level that you've never known before, because it actually talks about the evolutionary psychology behind attraction. Can it be life-changing? Yes, if you know how to implement it. For most people, they don't. So I'm also a science nerd. I love reading shit about evolutionary psychology. So I'm going to actually put this in pretty good because I don't think every single person needs to read this. However, if you're very interested in understanding women, sex, dating, this is going to be a really good book to read. No More Mr. Nice Guy. Absolutely life-changing book. Highly suggest every single man to read this, even if you don't think you're a nice guy. It's not about being a nice guy. I didn't think I was a nice guy. It talks about the nice guy tendencies, which is like things like approval seeking, validation, if you lash out sometimes, certain emotions that come up, and it has practical exercises, things that you can actually write down to get to the root cause of them. Is it going to be life-changing for everyone? No, but I suggest everyone to read this book at least once a year. Most of my clients read it once a year. So highly, highly suggest it. Anti-Fragile. Mid as fuck. The whole point of the book is the more hardships you go through, the more anti-fragile you become. That's it. You can watch a YouTube video to basically get the gist of this, but too much science, too much pseudoscience, not enough practicality. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I'm going to put this in amazing category. Really, really good book. the stories. And again, it just changes your mindset. It changes your belief systems. So it can be life-changing. Again, lacks practicality. So for that reason, I won't put it in the life-changing category, but it is a very amazing book that should be on your to-read list. Who Moved My Cheese? I actually don't remember this book too often. I remember reading it and thinking it's pretty good. So I'm going to put it in the pretty good category. I don't remember what it was about, but when I read it, I remember thinking this is pretty good. So we'll leave that there. Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, I believe. Mid as fuck. Some good advice in there. It can be pretty good, but too much stories, too much research. I don't like Ryan Holiday's writing too much. I know a lot of people swear by him. I just think it's mid. The Power of Now. This is going to go right next to Eckhart Tolle's book. This was his first book. I liked reading it in the opposite order. I liked reading his newer book first and then his old book. Power of Now can be really life-changing. It has practical advice on how to become more present. I suggest listening to the audiobook of this. I listened to the audiobook of Power of Now. I haven't actually done this in a while, but I used to listen to it at least once a month. It puts you in a completely different state of consciousness when you're actually listening to them. Highly suggest it. Really good book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mid as fuck. It's a story about his rich dad and the difference in thinking between his rich dad and his poor dad. You can probably just YouTube his a video on this that's going to help you with that. The Secret. I'm going to put this in harmful and bad. It can be good for your mindset, but I think a lot of people who get into The Secret and Law of Attraction become these hippies who do nothing but sit down and visualize all day without taking action. And so for this reason, I think that The Secret does more harm than it does more good. Most of the people who are rich off of reading The Secret and doing all the tactics are people who are teaching it. So I don't suggest this book. It can be good to read to just further your understanding, but tons of fucking pseudoscience, not really good, tons of stories, and it can be harmful advice. Think and Grow Rich. Oh, this is a big one in business. Everybody says this is life-changing. This is amazing. This is good. This was fucking garbage. Absolute garbage. Napoleon Hill, first of all, there's no accounts or records of Napoleon Hill ever actually being around rich people or documenting rich people. He's a scam artist who was pretty much broke all of his life. The advice, not good. Honestly, I just remember reading this book and being like, what a fucking bummer. That was a waste of time. So I don't suggest it. Too many copies of this are sold. He doesn't deserve it. It's a bad book. It's not practical, and it's probably not going to make you successful. Thinking Fast and Slow. Absolutely love this book. Oops, I just realized that this is a blank PNG, so you probably won't see it here, but I'm going to put Thinking Fast and Slow in the pretty good category. It lacks practicality to be amazing or life-changing. However, understanding the mindset of the different modes of how we think as human beings, really good book. It should go on your to read, but it shouldn't probably be the priority. Okay. We are done. We got the life-changing books, the amazing books, the pretty good books, mid as fuck, which is a lot of books that people talk about. I put it in the mid as fuck category. Look at this stuff. Psycho-Cybernetics and Influence. All of this stuff is so mid, and all of these books are just harmful bad. These are the books that you should probably read. If you have a book recommendation for me to read, I want you to drop it in the comment section down below. I definitely want to check it out. I really like doing these videos. So if you have any recommendations for how I can make a tier list for something else, also put it in the comment section down below, and we will talk soon. Take care. Oh, I'm not done recording. We will talk soon.